Alright, we are approaching the final 10 days of this New Year's challenge where every 1,000 subs in January I give away one Dazzler Pass. We currently have one Dazzler Pass guaranteed, but the next goal is only 300 subs away, and yeah, we are getting close to it, and there is a bonus incentive of rank 3 King or OG Thanos, so subscribe to support the channel and enter the giveaway. But now let's talk about Gentle, a champion that, is named Gentle, but he definitely isn't a gentle character because he can hit quite hard sometimes. So this champion, if you read his kit, was obviously made to counter Bullseye, and more specifically, counter Bullseye on Node 49 in Alliance 4, which is Stunning Reflection and Polka Dot Power, because this man is first of all, jam-packed with Bullseye countering utility. He has access to Pursuit, he has access to Reinforce, he is bleed immune, he pretty much has all the tools to counter Bullseye. He also does go Unstoppable and Indestructible if the opponent purifies a debuff, so he is tailor-made to counter Bullseye, and then you cash out your damage with the SP2 after building muscle mass, and that's the result. You just one-shot any Battlegrounds health pool. It is actually crazy, and that was a 40-second takedown. Now let's move up with the higher health pool Bullseyes, because he was meant for these higher health pool Bullseyes. So let's talk about the champion first, and let's talk about what he does, and let's talk about how he counters 49 Bullseye. So first of all, he is stun immune while he is parrying, so Stunning Reflection is just turned off immediately, and then he also has access to Rupture on his 4th light attack, which gives him power with Polka Dot Power, and that's really it. That's the 49 countering part of his kit, and the rest of it is just bonus either Bullseye countering or just general utility. So here I dropped the SP2, and here's what I'm doing to build up this champion. He has a chance on any light attack or basic hit to trigger a muscle mass, which gives him increased attack rating, and it fuels his damage output by giving him daunted passives as well. Once he is at 12 muscle mass, which is his maximum, he will gain a bonus daunted, but if you drop a SP2 with your muscle mass at max, you do bonus damage, right? But you also take 10% of your health as recoil damage, and that is not mastery based, that is just in his base kit. So you have to be careful, because if you don't time your SP2 right, so where it one-shots the opponent, you will take that recoil damage, right? However, there is a workaround this if your Gentle is Sig 20 or not max Sig, because the first workaround is if you have a max Sig Gentle and you drop your SP2 while unstoppable, you pretty much negate all of the damage, right? However, if you drop your SP2 while you have 11 muscle mass or less, which is just anything but the maximum, you don't take the recoil damage. So that's the workaround for a low Sig Gentle. This Gentle is Sig 20 because I don't want to show a rank 3 Sig 200, because we're not gonna get that anytime soon, right? Anyone watching this video, y'all won't get a Sig 200 rank 3 Gentle, so I'm just being semi-realistic here. And yeah, here I dropped the SP2 1%, and so because of that I take the recoil damage, and that's where the problems start if you don't plan around his recoil, right? But then again, this is questing. This isn't Battlegrounds where it's actually important to retain your health, because in questing, he's fine to lose some damage to the recoil mechanic, since he does, have access to a lot of features that make him very tanky. For example, he has access to Unstoppable, he has access to a 10,000 plus physical resistance on the SP2, so he is jam-packed with tankiness, right? But Recoil does bypass that tankiness because it is just a flat health reduction unless you are unstoppable, which reduces the damage output, and that can be up to 100% if you are at max Sig. So yeah, did I explain everything? Let's see. He also has access to Fear on the SP1, he has access to Reverb on the SP2, which is some bonus damage on every hit. He has access to Daunted, which is more bonus damage on the special attacks. He has access to Unstoppable, he has access to bleed immunity. I said that already. Is that everything? I think that's everything. I always forget one thing, and the first comment is, hey, you forgot to mention this, and I'm okay, man. But I think that's everything. Yeah, so we can just watch this gameplay now. I talked very fast to explain everything because I just want to do it ASAP so I can just get to the silly goofy stuff. So yeah, that's Gentle. He's a bit of an odd one for sure. You know, the recoil mechanic is cool. I mean, it can sometimes not be cool, obviously, but for the most part, it does pay off big time because that damage output is nice. It is really, really good. A minute 33 for like an 850,000 health fight is decent. Like, there are faster options, obviously, but here's why I picked this node for him. So, to activate his pursuit, you have to have a debuff get purified. So if you drop a light attack, you activate the rupture debuff and that can get purified, and if that gets purified, he triggers his pursuit. Now this has an evade node as like part of the scourge mechanic, and that is like, you know, pretty cool since we have access to pursuit because he keeps on purifying the rupture. So we have pretty much like one of the best counters to this node, which is just like a straight up evade counter with pursuit. So yeah, it's a fun one, and pursuit is like a very good ability for sure. Like having access to just like a straight up evade counter, which is massive since like so many nodes have like ability accuracy, like modification immunity, so like you can't even use things like slow or decelerate, which is very frustrating. But just having a straight up pursuit is really, really helpful, and I think it is the best current evade counter in this game. Gentle's isn't, like his pursuit isn't the best in the game, like don't get me wrong, I'm not trying to say that at all, because trust me, Gentle's evade counter is like, to be honest, one of the worst ones because to activate it, the opponent has to purify something, which, you know, in this game is very rare for like any class that isn't skill. So his ceiling is like countering either skill nodes that have evade like tagged onto it, or just countering like skill evade characters, because that's really it, right? He can't really, like, let's say Spider-Man Classic, how is Spider-Man gonna purify something so he can counter the evade? It, like, that's not the case. So he does have his ceiling, obviously. Like if an evade character is just like, hey, I'm not gonna purify anything, Gentle's like, alright, I'm not gonna fight you then because I can't even counter you. It's a bit silly, but you know, it does have its uses, and by its uses I mean that one Act 9.1 like quest node and Bullseye, and probably a few champions outside of that. Like for example, if we ever see a Mixmaster Korg again, that might be like pretty useful to have access to. But yeah, like it's less of like countering base abilities, you know, besides Bullseye, and more so countering node combinations with his pursuit. And yeah, we can like move on from the pursuit, obviously, and we can like move back or move away from talking about the pursuit. But another thing to note is that this champion interacts very well with mutant nodes. For example, right here, I just you know, one-shot that. But yeah, so a lot of mutant nodes have like prowess or something, or like have something that bumps up special attack damage, and the way Daunted works, like it allows Gentle to benefit so much from like those prowess nodes, from those increased attack rating nodes, that like for questing purposes, this might be one of the best mutants to like, you know, go towards and favor, because in like battlegrounds, right, he might not be like the best to manage with his, you know, recoil mastery mechanic. However, in like questing where it isn't as important to have your health like all the way topped up, this is where he gets to shine a lot, because like the questing nodes that always enhance your damage output just like really benefit Gentle more than other champions. Because yeah, Daunted is pretty crazy. It's like a very good mechanic, and it scales very well with like any damage enhancement. Like for example, right here, yeah, just like one shot him. That is absolutely crazy. And that was like what, 40 something seconds. Now we have this Ghost Rider on the same node, and yeah, it's going to be the same thing, like him just benefiting greatly from these enhancements from the mutant nodes. So when it comes to meeting mutant demands, he absolutely does do that. Like honestly, he is going to be a champion that I feel like will have use everywhere, mainly because he hard counters bullseye, so that's automatically a place in a deck for sure. And the fact that he's also very tanky is like some bonus defensive value. He also has like a use in Alliance War with, you know, being the best counter to 49 bullseye, and with all those things combined, he's also great for questing since he meets the mutant demands and can just like absolutely crush those mutant nodes in story quest. So yeah, I think that he does have use everywhere, and he is going to be a good addition to any roster, mainly because like he checks a small number of boxes in some areas, but like that's good enough. But he also checks a lot of boxes in like the story questing areas, which is like very good for a certain, like, you know, a certain percent of the player base. Obviously some people aren't as focused on it, like, you know, for example, me. Actually no, I'm like kind of 50-50 at this point, but you know, if I do want to use a questing mutant, this guy, he might get the nod, because check this out real quick. We're gonna go for the SP2, and yeah, like him plus prowess plus daunted plus reverb is genuinely like one of the craziest pairings in this game. So yeah, man, he is definitely a champion that I'm gonna pay attention to, and I might even buy with like the early access bundles, because my gosh, he slaps. He is a very fun champion to play. And yeah, I don't know, I like him for sure. I know that he does have like his very niche uses, and like he was designed to counter something very niche, which is somewhat a problem if you ask me, because okay, never mind, you know, if you do that damage, you can counter whatever you want, man. Sure, go ahead. But like I was saying, he is very niche utility wise, and like so niche to the point where something niche has to like happen to activate his general utility. That's the part where it's like, okay, that's kind of weird, but like maybe it does have some uses outside of just like specifically bullseye, and it does have its uses, right? I did showcase that in the 9.1 quest. But like for this reason, he won't be the best for like just the standard skill defenders such as Atuma. He will be good for Korg for sure, since he has access to Purify, Korg that is. Like Nick Fury, not the best counter at all, and he is good for like the middle of the pack defenders like Chilth for example. But like outside of that, he's mainly just like good for bullseye in those battleground scenarios. But like he might do some things outside of the skill class, because he's a champion that like has access to no buffs or debuffs, which is honestly pretty helpful in some cases for like, you know, those anti-buff characters or those anti-debuff characters, which are, you know, like skill champions. So it does make sense that he does have no debuffs. Actually, wait, no, he does have a debuff. He has the Rupture debuff, which he can use to benefit off of those purifiers. But to end this video here, I have the Shibari Panther fight, and this one's a very fun one. And it's like a good showcase of how he can like alternate between countering Purify and just like being anti-Purify with having access to no debuffs or buffs. I mean, like having access to no buffs, that's all anti-Purify, but like the debuff part that is kind of important. So yeah, here we're gonna drop the SP1, and so far so good here. I forgot to mention this entire video, but if you activate your SP2 while unstoppable, it does more damage. I'm just like throwing that out there, just like at random, but it's important to know. So yeah, like if you see me drop an SP2 while unstoppable, that's why. And by the way, he also does like, you know, reduce the special cost of a special attack if he drops it while unstoppable. So he does want to be awakened. It does like benefit him greatly with like the damage mitigation, the like power cost reduction, but like this is a SIG 20, a more realistic showcase, and like he still does very good things like at this low SIG level. So if you do pull him even unawakened, he does just fine. Like he is still a good champion, obviously. And here I dropped the SP2 one final time. Well, okay, not one final time because I didn't crit, but that's another thing. He does gain 5,300 crit rating on the SP2, and like with the Gambit relic as well, you pretty much will crit, but sometimes you don't, but that's okay. That's what mutant champions are like, you know, known for, just being the best gamblers out there. But yeah, that's Gentle for you. Very fun champion, very like oddball character when it comes to like how he activates his utility, but he does get the job done. He does like do what he's meant to do very well. So I'm pleased with this champion. He's not beyond God tier. He's not gonna be like, you know, a must-have, but if you want to invest in this champion, he will meet the mutant demands very well, and will even excel beyond that with like doing very niche but important fights very, very well as well. So yeah, let me know your thoughts on Gentle, and yeah, that's about it for me.